and mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so in prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoken about what you got.
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage. The two words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Okay. What's the deal, peoples? What's the deal? Welcome everyone and tuning in to Chill Will Radio, man. Episode number 82, man. 82 weeks and gosh, episode 8. That's a lot of episodes, yo. That's a lot of episodes, man. First and foremost, thank you to all those people who are listening, tuning in. If you're gonna listen to this today, tomorrow, next week, whenever you get the chance, when you get bored, you know, sitting in your car on your way to work, listening to this so you don't have to listen to that irritating coworker at work, whatever you're doing. Good looking for listening and tuning in, man. I still don't know how I'm feeling. I know this first part of the show is just like initially to check in, and I was having a conversation with this young lady that's sitting in front of me. That it's been kind of difficult to describe my feelings. Not really as of late, but this situation right here has allowed me to be confident in saying that I don't know how I feel. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing to be able to use this to be able to use this as a way to be able to sound confident and not knowing how I feel. But I think me not knowing how I feel is allowing me to be okay with that. It's allowing me to be okay with a side of being just kind of like blank. I think when people ask us like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, what's going on? And blah, blah, blah. Like our first instinctual answer is to be like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm good. I'm fine. Mine is typically I'm chilling, you know, just chilling, you know, I'm straight, you know, and those things like instinctually, that's just what we say because we either don't know how we feel, we don't know how to describe what we feel, or I just don't want to hear your mouth, right? I don't want you to know how I truly feel. But going to those specific individuals who are at a place to where it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm not good, but I'm also not mad. I'm also not sad. I'm just like, I think in my experience in working with a lot of people who are depressed, they have that feeling of like numbness. They have that feeling of just, right? And they want to feel something. They want to get to a place to where they feel something. And on one end, I speak to them a lot about being able to write their feelings down and being able to write their thoughts down and being able to face their feelings. But in my current situation right now, I think back to some of the tools that I give to my clients when they tell me some of these things, and I don't know what I'm trying to face, right? I don't know if I'm trying to face anger. I don't know if I'm trying to face happiness or sadness. I think a lot of the times we force ourselves to feel something without just being okay with where you're at. And I think I've been purposely using this week to just be okay with where I'm at, right? Have I been happy? No. But have I been completely sad and everything? Nah. I literally don't know where I've been at, but I've been okay with that. Because that place has given me a place of being calm, right? This whole week has been extremely peaceful. Outside of like everything that's still going on, outside of, you know, what we see on social media and what we hear and all of these things, and outside of like my coworkers irritating me, like, let's not get it twisted. My patience level is thin. Like, I am ready to go just to get to that point. But I'm at a place to where I feel as if I've been trying to give a specific feeling a name, and we don't need to do that. None of us truly do. You know, we don't need to, because we know what happiness feels like. We know what sadness feels like. But if you don't know where your feelings are right now, just let it be. You know, sometimes we just got to be okay with being okay. Like, I'm okay. And okay is, like, I guess a feeling, but it's something that we all kind of go through. It's something that we all deal with. Is it that side of being numb? Nah. But it's just that side of just like, hey, I'm just here. You know, does that mean you need to block off all of the feelings? Definitely not, because that's what the severely depressed and some of my clients do. They intentionally try to put themselves in a position to where they run away and block off their feelings. If you're at that place to where you're just like, and I don't know how I'm feeling or whatever, that's fine. But just be open to whatever comes, whether it be the anger or the sadness or you know, the happiness or whatever. But do not fault yourself if something's sad. If you were to see something sad and your reaction isn't sadness, right? Don't get mad at yourself because you're not getting mad at the one thing that everybody is mad at, right? Because you're going to move at a different pace. You're going to move at a different level, and your feelings and your emotions does not move in accordance to what's trendy, right? Your emotions move in accordance to what's good with you. And obviously we want to make sure we're not allowing the trends to kind of move our internal meter, but we also want to be mindful that we're not blocking our meter from feeling something. We want to make sure that we're not blocking our emotions for feeling something. Just on a personal note, I can say that's something that I've been doing for years. Years. I'm 20. How old am I? 28. Goddamn, I forgot. 28. Do I know what extreme sadness feels like? I don't know. Do I know what extreme happiness feels like? I don't know. But the reason why I can say I'm not sure what those feelings exactly feels like, because I can say on my end, I question a lot of things. Why am I sad right now? Why am I feeling a little low? Or why am I feeling a little happy? Or why am I a little upbeat right now? And I think our happiness level and our sadness level, there's no exact moment. We're going to be sad based upon where we're at that time. So how sad you are right now may be as far as you can get at this specific moment. How happy you are right now may be as far as you can get at this specific moment within your specific time frame, right? Just like for me, right? Where I'm at right now in my state of calmness or in my state of peace, this is just how far I can go. I can get no calmer than this. You know, somebody may excite me with something. I'm going to be like, hey! And that just might be it. Like, I can't pull nothing out of my bag. I think it's important to be mindful that you just can't pull like the fake happiness and the fake sadness. Like, nah, we're not trying to fake the funk so people could feel bad for us or so people could be happy for us. We just got to be at a place to where we're confident with where we're at that moment. And if that feeling or emotion is somewhat confusing, don't question it. Questioning things that are internally going on with us is very anxiety producing. Because we don't know where it's coming from. We don't know where it is headed. We don't know how to get away from it. We don't have the answers to it. We believe it's something that is out of our control. And if it's out of our control, then it's something that's going to cause us anxiety. You have to be always be mindful of where your specific meter is at. And if you're not understanding where it is at, or if you feel like you've kind of lost it a tad bit, it's all right. You'll find it at some point in time. That's what life is going to do to us, right? Especially with what's going on right now. We're going to see certain things that, you know, bother us so many times to where we get numb, to where we begin to like, hey, it is what it is, right? I can say that I am numb to a lot of these police killings out here. I can say that. And a lot of other black people are. You know, I've said this countless times. I was saying this to the co-host earlier, is that I'm not mad at the racist cop for killing us. Like, nah, I'm not mad at any racist cop for killing us. Like, We need to be mad at ourselves that we are allowing them to do that to us. We need to be mad at ourselves that we are allowing that to continue to happen. We need to be the people that stick up for ourselves. We cannot look for the white folks to have their hands out to be our savior. We have to be able to save ourselves first. I am not willing to help someone that's not willing to help themselves. Us as therapists can only help our clients so much. We have to allow them to do the work. We can't do the work for them. We cannot hope and wish and wait for white people to get out here and just magically stop being racist and magically stop being this and magically stop killing us. It's like, no, if you see something going on, speak up. If you see an officer right there doing something wrong, don't just pull out your phone. Do something to disrupt what is going on. So that way you could at least feel something. I think a lot of us, we don't feel anything because it's the same thing that's happening over and over and over and over. But if one specific person was to, I don't know, pull out their Skittles and throw it at that cop that was on his neck, we would have felt something. We would have felt some type of hope. We would have felt some type of strength. We would have felt some type of resilience. We have to disrupt the system in some type of way, externally and internally. Throw something in there to make it shake, to make it move, to make it that we are uncomfortable a tad bit. So that way certain feelings could kind of arise. So certain feelings could kind of be born, because we are at a place of or we are at a place of I don't know, because the one thing that would put us in a place of sadness we see over and over and over. If I see abuse happening over and over, I'm just gonna be like, it is what it is. You know. So that's where I'm at. I know that was kind of long-winded, but that's where I've been at this week and right now, and all these good points. But at the end of the day, just wherever you at right now, if you're not sad, if you're not mad, if whatever, just be cool with where you're at. All right. So moving on forward to the self-care piece, right? The one thing that I want a lot of people, and this is the one thing that I've been consciously doing throughout my time, is those moments in which you have dead space within your day, whether it be you driving to work, whether it be, I don't know, you just sitting in your car, whether it be you just scrolling through Instagram, or those, because we all have a lot of dead space. Those moments in which you have dead space, fill it with some type of substance, right? So if you're on your way to work, you got a long drive to work. Like if you have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to work, call someone, you know, listen to some positive message. You know, don't just allow dead space to be dead space, right? Reflect on how you're feeling. You know, reflect on, if you're driving home from work, reflect on what went on during the day, right? Work on certain things. If you're up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning and you can't sleep, don't just sit there and just watch TV. Work on certain stuff. You know, meditate. Work on that business that you've been trying to work on. You know, stretch, do yoga, whatever it is. Start to fill in a certain type of dead space that we have with some type of substance. So that way we're constantly in a state of growth. We're constantly in a state of growing, right? Instead of just kind of just being there. Instead of kind of just being like, I'm here, you know. So that's the one self-care piece I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen, right? Within your dead space, fill it with some type of substance, whether it be calling a friend, whether it be checking up on someone, whether it be listening to something positive, whether it be working on something that you've been telling yourself you've been needing to work on for a while. Fill it in with something. So that way you're always in a productive mode or productive space. All right? So moving on to the main topic, I have Miss... What's your name?
You get on my nerves.
Tia.
We got this today. Hey, y'all.
What's the deal?
Hi, brother.
Oh, gosh.
Y'all know that that's my brother. He has me here all the time now because he can't get enough of the joy that I give him.
How are you doing, Tia?
I'm kind of like you. Like, I'm just, you know, here.
Just here.
Just kind of just here, you know. Lots of change happened. So
how's your week been with all of this stuff and everything? I don't think I've spoken to you about how you've been feeling.
How
We spoke
I've been
about
feeling.
it.
My
but
week
how
has
you
been
feeling?
it has been crazy because I'm moving, or I just moved, so there was a lot of emotions.
Oh, you doing big girl things.
Big girl things. There was a lot of emotions surrounding the move in particular.
Yeah.
And then all of this happening, and you know, I have people who are going out to the protest and, you know, with Corona and all kinds of stuff. So it's for me, it's just been kind of a high anxiety week of like, are you guys being safe? Are you guys taking care of yourself? Like, what is, you know? So it's just been a week full of anxiety, worry, some rest. I got a little bit of rest.
What have you been doing to lower your anxiety?
To lower my anxiety, so I moved to a place that has a backyard and it's really peaceful, it's really quiet. So I've been just going outside, watching my dog run around. She's old, so it's fun watching her get that excitement and freedom. But just journaling, making sure that I'm checking in with myself. Not talking about it a whole lot. Like, I'll talk about it to like my friends.
Yeah.
You know, but it's kind of exhausting to talk about. I was on the phone with my mom and we were talking about George Floyd, and I was fine, and then I was like, yeah, and then he screamed out for his mom, and then I just like started bawling. Like,
are you a crybaby?
That made me cry because I'm like, I could only imagine like screaming out for your mom who's not alive. Like, she can't do anything for you. That is what hit my spirit more than anything probably throughout this situation. So I just try not to talk about it too much because it's a lot.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I ain't a crybaby though. I have feelings, sir.
I appreciate you for coming, yo. For real, for real.
Even though I almost died on the way up here.
So, you know, LA people in LA can't drive.
Almost got ran off the road.
We haven't had traffic in I don't know how long. Damn, I really haven't been in traffic in like since what, March?
I know. But
That's
even
really
still,
good.
it's still like from Santa Clarita here, it was only like 40 minutes.
Oh, you are coming from like the valley.
I'm not coming from the valley anymore now. I'm coming from further than the valley now.
I don't know anything that's far.
Do you know where Magic Mountain is?
I do. But,
Okay, so
but,
there.
But you got to understand, to people who just were born and raised in South Central, anything past Hollywood is the valley. No matter how far it is, it's the valley.
So even Palmdale and Lancaster?
Valley, yes. In the valley. Diddy is right here shaking his head like it's the valley.
And to me, I'm like, oh, so you're talking about downtown? Like,
So what's considered the
so
valley? What cities are the
So
valley?
the valley is like from like Burbank to like Canoga Park, Woodland Hills area. So it's that stretch. Northridge.
So you got Canoga Park, Willow Hills, you got Northridge, you got San
Granada
Fernando.
Hills.
I mean, it's in the name. You
Sylmar.
got Sylmar.
Mm-hmm.
You got Panorama City.
Yep.
California City.
No.
Why that's not the
That's
valley?
in Palmdale, Lancaster. Like, that's out that way. That's the Antelope Valley.
It's all the valley. It's in the
We
name.
don't call it the valley out there.
People who from the valley don't call it the valley. People who not from the valley.
It's just out that way. It's just far.
At the end of the day, I appreciate you traveling all this way.
Thank y'all.
I'm not going to give you no gas money. I appreciate
You
it
never
all.
give me anything.
I give you my time and
You
my,
know what? I will say
my
you
ear.
did text me this weekend or this week, and that like warmed my heart. Like, you just checked in, and that was like,
I did? What'd I say?
you was like, you was just on my mind.
Oh. Yeah, you was on my mind. I was hoping you was all right. You all good, you know.
You all right sometimes.
That's what's
Depends on
up.
the day.
I'm a nice guy.
You're a nice guy.
To my soul.
To your spirit.
Depends on the day.
Amen.
Exactly. But, Tia, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about parenting and the protest and the rioting and the racism and the movement. Just being a parent in that, because I have encountered a lot of parents this week, and it has been a hot mess.
No. Meanwhile, none of us have kids.
None of us have babies. Today's my godson's birthday, though, so
Happy
big up
birthday.
to my godson Tramel. He's 8.
Go get him something.
I don't know what to get him anymore. Like,
Get him a Black Lives Matter.
I'm gonna get him a Black Lives Matter. He has little dreads coming in and everything, so he's gonna be down for the movement.
He
I
just
can
think he
feel it.
cool.
He's so cool. I love him. He's so good. But I've just been encountering, especially a lot of white parents that have been like struggling, just like really struggling to like
White parents struggling?
Yeah, like, okay, for example, I had a client who was telling me that she didn't know how to explain the protest to her kid. And when I asked her, well, do they understand why we're protesting? She was like, oh, no, that's too much for her. Like,
It's too much to say why we are protesting?
why we're protesting, yes.
Okay.
Like, it was like, oh no, she doesn't know. She knows what the protests are, but she was like,
she doesn't know the reason.
She doesn't.
So
understand the reason.
did she tell you why that she felt like that was too much?
She just said that she didn't think that she would understand she would comprehend what racism was.
Okay.
And yeah.
It sounds like the sex conversation that many parents don't like having with their kids.
Exactly.
Right? It's entirely too much. It's something that we kind of need to stay away from. It's something that's kind of taboo.
Yeah. But they also don't, if none of this would have happened, a lot of these people would not need to have these conversations with their kids. If we're being 100, they should, but they don't necessarily have to.
Do you think a racism conversation with your children should be just as important as that sex conversation?
Absolutely. But again, it depends on who if you're dealing with, like, per se, a white child, then
it don't matter. Say for white kids, black kids, whatever it is.
Yeah. I think to certain races of kids, yes.
Okay.
100%. I think it's important 100%, but to certain races of children, it's more important than it would be for others.
You think it's more important for white people to have that conversation than it is for black people?
I
Black
think
people, we're going to have it regardless, but we're having it for our safety.
Right. If I'm thinking in the white person's mind, probably not. For what? What do I need to have them? I'm raising my kid right. You know, they're nice people or whatever that means. And so why do I need to have a conversation about racism?
Does that add or take away from racism?
It adds to it.
Okay.
Because you have a group of kids now growing up who are shocked by all of this, you know. So you have millennials and, like, baby boomers who are like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But my thought is, if you would have learned about it when you were younger, if you would have had a respect for it when you were younger, it would be probably a lot less shocking to you that this is happening right now. Mm-hmm. And so those same people that I see who are shocked about, oh my God, this can't be happening, they're not educating their kids either. So it's just going to keep being a cycle until one of us educates their kids, you know? And you don't want one of us to educate your baby.
And I think a lot of it is because these white parents, and I've had conversations with white parents about racism. From my experience, they don't know how to have a conversation because they don't even know how to have a conversation with themselves.
Right.
I think when a white person is having when a white person is having a conversation about racism with themselves, they also have to start to question their own privilege, but also their own, like, implicit bias.
Yes.
They have to question that because I think that's a form of racism that isn't taught. That's a form of racism that we kind of just see and we kind of just go with it because society says it's that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I feel like that's where you get a lot of, like, your microaggressions.
Exactly.
From. Like, for example, I see
100%.
all kinds of kids, and my youngest is 2 right now, and every time I change my hair, it's, can I touch your hair? And it's like, she doesn't understand that, but her mom will flip out and be like, oh my gosh, don't say that to her. Like,
so
that's
I've always felt bad for, like, black women because I thought, like, oh, that just happens to, like, black women. It don't happen to black men. So I was in Paris fucking, like, I want to say November or October. November. Yeah, I was in Paris in, like, November. And it was this, like, this German dude walked up to me, right? I was brushing my hair and he looked at my hair like, oh my gosh, like, how are you able to get, like, all coily and wavy and all of this stuff? Like, it's like, as you get it cut and blah, 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 can I touch it? And it was like, at that moment, it was just like, all right, I understand.
You get it now.
Yeah.
It's funny because Germans love black people. As crazy as it sounds, I lived next to somebody who was German. And the confusion, because they have the conversation, which is crazy to me.
The Germans ain't no punks.
They ain't. And my neighbor, shout out to Edward, is from Germany.
Yo, his name is Edward.
His name is Edward. Hey, Marcella and Edward. His wife is Brazilian too. She's gorgeous.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the German with the name Edward is weird.
I love my Edward. But Edward said that these are conversations that they have with their kids. It seems like a lot of the times it's really just American children that don't have these conversations because other countries have these conversations with the baby.
That's because we don't have conversations with things that we're trying to hide.
Right. Taboo.
Exactly. If we're trying to hide it, then we're not trying to have a conversation with it. Other countries, it's not that they're not trying to hide it, but it's the racism is not as big as it is in other countries. Racism is obviously there, but classism is much bigger.
Yeah.
On the other end.
Yeah.
So we can speak about the racism thing, but we can't speak about the class.
The classism.
Here, it's no, and we not having it at all, because a lot of white people question themselves, and I know they deal with this a lot. Question themselves: are they racist? You know, with certain things, or with certain things that they see. Has there been a point in time in which I was racist? Has there been a point in time in which I've said some type of microaggression, or I kind of put something out there to offend the black person? Because they walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
A lot of them who are purposely not trying to be racist walk on eggshells simply because they've never had a conversation with someone, because either they're scared, they only have white friends, or they don't even know how to start it.
Yeah.
Because they too worried about, like, I don't want to offend you.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with black people that we have too, is like, don't ask me any questions. And I'm like, part of me is like, yeah, no, I don't need to educate you on everything, but if there's something you want to know, I'd rather you ask me than just go perpetuate whatever you think it's going to be and go out there acting a fool and making things worse. So when black people be like, oh, I don't want to talk about this, or you should have asked me earlier, or whatever, I'm like, yeah, but do you want them just walking around with nonsense? And then teaching their kids the same nonsense, you know? So I think that we have to be willing to at least somewhat educate a little bit. Like, I know we don't think we should, but, you know, how are they going to know? And especially, how are their children going to know? And so with that little girl that touched my hair, I explained to her, it's not nice. She's 2. So it's not nice to touch my hair without permission. You can ask me if you want to. And so
you really wanted to say, ain't no fucking dog, bitch. Don't touch me. That's
Don't
what you
touch
really wanted
me.
to say. Fucking dog.
But as a 2-year-old, you think about, if we're talking about development, that frontal lobe is not developed in any way at all for a 2-year-old baby. So, and the frontal lobe, for people who don't know, is where your judgment, your reasoning, where all this stuff kind of lives.
But white people be like allowing their kids to do all these other things in which
They
they're
do.
fully not developed. Like, white people be out here doing all of this reckless shit. White parents be out here allowing their children to do all of these reckless things to make these grown ass decisions. But you're not willing to have a conversation about racism to your children. And it's not about that you don't know about racism. Everybody in this damn country knows about racism.
Yeah.
It's about the fact that you just don't want to have it because you are guilty just a tad bit.
Yeah, and it doesn't affect you on a daily basis. For us, it affects us on a daily basis. You can't walk into a room without questioning your blackness sometimes. I went to the mailbox yesterday. I'll give you a good example of this. Went to the mailbox yesterday. Where I move is a predominantly white area. It just is what it is. So I was on the phone with my mom, moving on up. But it's somewhere I've always wanted to live. So anyway, going in the mailbox on the phone with my mom, I had my scarf on my head. And
Police sirens in the background?
lit, hold on.
God damn, it's popping out there.
Wait, is that outside? Are we picking it up from outside?
Yeah, that's outside. So it's popping. It's going down.
Anyway, so I'm on the phone with my mom, and I walk out to the mailbox just to get the mail. And this white man, he, like, my back is turned to him, and he goes, "Hi." And I'm like, oh my God, mom, this guy is, this white guy is talking to me. Because in that moment, my blackness came to, I'm in like a mostly white neighborhood, so I'm like, Mom, this guy is talking to me. Like, I don't know why. I was minding my business.
I mean, but the white person probably was genuinely happy to see
It
you.
was nice, but as a black person,
We got a black person here. Hey, turn up.
and she's pretty. But for a black
gonna say all that
person,
shit,
you
but
walk
hey.
it, and you know what issue. We had this conversation earlier. Don't play me. We had an intense conversation today, guys, but it was good. But you know, you're always aware of your blackness in the grand scheme of things. So,
Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it can be a mix. Like, I think sometimes it's really good to know what your blackness can bring. And then I think on the flip side, it's scary, especially like as a female, me being by myself and people knowing where I live or whatever. That's scary for me, you know. So it can be a mix. It's good when it's needed, I guess, and then when it's forced upon you, it's not good.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Right? I think a lot of the time we are forced to acknowledge our blackness solely because white people put us in this place of like, oh, you're black, so you're completely different. So it's like, yo, okay, I am black. Now I have to figure out how am I going to deal with my blackness in what area, you know? Because I don't know if I believe when they're looking at their culture and when they're looking at their heritage and their history and things of those sorts, it allows them to have a sense of pride from, let's say, Asian culture or black culture or whatever it is. But I don't think many other cultures are forced to remember, like, hey, you are other.
Yeah.
You know, we're the only ones who are forced to remember you're other. So, like what you just said, hey, now I have to remember I'm the only black person here.
In the neighborhood.
Because it's like, oh, shit. The white person looking at me like, oh, shit, we got a black one. Hey.
Yeah. And it makes me sad because it feels like no matter what we do as a culture, we could send our kids to the best schools. You could send little Mackenzie up there to...
Mackenzie.
My little niece up there to
You know what's crazy about that? Is like, because I've been thinking about implicit bias a lot. And like, one of the ways in which your implicit bias is shown is how you react to certain names, right? On that piece of paper.
Yes.
Like, my girlfriend's name is Tanisha. Black ass name. Mackenzie. White ass name. Oh, if it's Mackenzie versus Tanisha, let's go with the Mackenzie because she may be a little... Meanwhile, Mackenzie, a whole ass demon. Like, fuck your world.
And if she's your baby, probably.
My kid's gonna be bad. I know it. But, you know, even like implicit bias, like, even goes as far as that. You know, just the names and certain things.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. So I think that it's going to be, and you can send them to the greatest schools and whatever, but they're still black, you know.
What about, I don't know if you're okay with having this question. I should have asked you before the show.
Do you want to ask me off mic?
Nah, fuck it. What about when it comes to the racism conversation with the parents had with you?
My parents had? It's funny because I had already thought about this, so you're fine.
I just didn't want to put their professions out there.
Oh, yeah. But the conversations that they had with me were more so... being a girl, I feel like is different. So I had more conversations about being aware of who you're with, more so than like police conversations, if that makes sense. The boys in my family had a lot of police-based conversations with like my uncles and like my stepdad and things of that nature. But as a girl, me and my two older female cousins, we had a lot of conversations about like be careful who you're with. Because a lot of the girls were dying because they were with like their boyfriends or like in the car, like kind of like Breonna Taylor, where she was just in the house with her boyfriend and they were going for him. Like that was a lot of the conversation that we had, was like be careful of who you're with. Just because you have white friends doesn't mean that you're going to be excluded. Like you're going to be included in that, you know, things like that. So those were more of the conversations we had than like the police brutality, things like that, because we know it happens with women, but it happens a lot less with women. So
it's more of a fear thing with men.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I've had that conversation. I just think that was something that was already known.
That was what I was going to ask you. How old were you when you?
I honestly don't think I've had that conversation. I just think that was something that was already known. Only because. Yeah, it wasn't a conversation I've had. It was something that was already known. Only because my mother was like low key kind of racist herself. Like these crackers and these white folks and they no good for you and blah 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 and all this extra stuff. What's up?
Are you glistening?
Oh, I got some. I'm talking about white people. I got some white stuff on my face today.
It looks like glitter. Where you been before this?
Thank you, Didier, for trying to, make sure I look pretty on this mic.
I saw him like tapping his face.
What is this?
Yeah,
but I've never had that racism conversation, but it was something that was always known because my mother would always, say certain things like don't trust white folks or these white people, blah blah blah, whatever it is. So it caused me to, start to ask and start to question.
Yeah.
What's wrong with these white folks? What are these white people doing? And then once I started to read up, it's like, oh, they really don't give a fuck about us like that.
Yeah.
And I think many times I've been asking myself how I would have that conversation with my child. What would it be? And making sure that the conversation I had with my child Well, no. Making sure that the conversation that I have with my child is based upon evidence and based upon the experience that I've had. I think it's important for your child to understand that I'm not having these conversations with you just because. I'm having these conversations with you because you're my son and you look like me, and this shit has happened to me. So this shit, I ain't gonna say bound, but it's a high risk of it happening to you.
Yeah. And I think that's the hard part between girls and boys, is because, like I said, it doesn't happen a lot. So a lot to girls, like I said, it's starting to become bigger.
I think it happens in different ways.
It looks different. Yeah.
I think racism. There's this veil around racism that is so cold that we only look at racism through one lens,
yeah.
which is the physical aspect of it.
Yeah.
But there are many other types of racism. And we spoke about this. I think we spoke about this before the show. The shit that these white women be doing. Yeah. In terms of like, hey, I'm scared of you. This black man is.
Yeah, like the lady in New York with the.
Oh, that was killing her dog because she was trying to get.
Oh my gosh. And the crazy thing about it is he's a part of the LGBTQ community, and he has like this crazy high job at Marvel. So it's like she's calling the cops on somebody who had a better job than she did.
He's a black man that's a bird watcher.
You know what? Let that man live.
Let that man watch birds. Like, but I don't.
But he didn't like, or she didn't like that he challenged her. He told her, "You need to put your dog on a leash." How dare he? Like, oh, excuse me. Like, no, you need to put your dog on a leash.
And I think that right there is why it's difficult for white folks to have that conversation with their children or even with themselves, because it's going to force them to realize that I ain't shit. It's going to force them to realize that I ain't shit. It's going to force them to realize that I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
That I'm not better than the other person. Because clearly, from a on paper standpoint, black man way better off than the little white woman who cleaned her dog.
Poor dog. Let me just say, as a dog mom,
yo, the dog started tripping and everything. You're like, bitch, let me go.
Like, I was so hurt, and people are like, you care more about. I'm like, I care about both, but that poor dog was like, give the dog to me. I'll take care of it.
Where's PETA? Where's PETA at?
They took the dog from her and gave it back.
Gave it back to her?
Yeah, they took it from her. After all the stuff happened, they took it, and then I guess they were like, here, you can secretly have it back.
Exactly. Everything today is just done for show, like for PR. Like, yo, let's have the cops kneel with us. Okay, you snapped it? All right, good. Go kill them niggas. Like, that's what it is.
It is. It's all PR and all look, and, you know, all these companies that are, like, putting out there. I'm like, I wish I would have done it ahead of time, you know. Like Facebook and Google, they're some of the most racist companies to work for.
Bank of America,
you know. So I wish they would have done it earlier. But these are the people that are educating the new generation, you know. And luckily for us, like, the newer generation is more outspoken. So you have a lot of white kids that are outspoken.
I think that's where racism is going to begin to die out.
Yeah.
Am I optimistic about racism ending within my lifetime? No. Hell the fuck no. But I understand that, you know, KKKs and on the front lines and all of this other stuff and Jim Crow and everything else, that shit was yesterday. Like, the fact that it's still people alive that was in their youth, you know, fighting for that, still alive right now. Mm-hmm. Then that means someone who's on the front lines of the KKK is just alive as well. Yeah. You know, so.
And educating people.
Exactly. Yeah. They gotta die. Those folks gotta die. They just gotta die.
And I have a really hard time because I have some friends who are for the movement, I just air quoted, and they let their racist uncles and grandfathers and whatever post on their stuff. And I'm like, so are you or are you not? Because it's okay for them to say, like, somebody posted on one of my friends' things that, like, we should go burn down minority businesses. And they kind of just, like, overlook that and was like, let me keep talking about everything else. And I'm like, you can't overlook that statement because these are the people that are sending other people out. These are the people that are educating you.
Because a lot of the times when they have to challenge someone close to them, when they have to challenge someone close to them, what they're also challenging is the belief that close person gave to them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's hard for me to question my mom because there are certain things that my mom be talking about that I agree with. Mm-hmm. You know, and I don't want to admit to it.
Yeah.
But I have to.
Yeah.
You know, which is why it's like I'm not willing to go back to it. Same with why these white parents aren't trying to have these conversations with the kids.
Yeah.
In my, I want to go to some of my interactions in the hospital with children, you know, because of this, right? And I think my interaction with a lot of these white children that are happening because of my interaction with a lot of these white children and their reaction to what's going on. I don't want to say it's weird or strange, but I see how for the white children, sometimes, maybe, I don't know, all the time, whatever it is, they
You got it. I believe in you.
I just had to bring myself together. So
I
don't
saw
say nothing bad.
if y'all, he physically had to like woo-saw himself down the cliff.
Continue, Tia.
I don't know where to continue from. But I get what you're saying when it means the interactions are weird. So
All right, but what I was saying is a lot of the interactions that I have with these white children are showing me what they are being taught by their parents. A lot of the parents are not aware that they are teaching their children racist type of behaviors.
Yeah.
Because they don't believe that their behaviors are kind of racist.
Yeah.
Do we need a play-by-play book? Or will you even be able to have a play-by-play manual of what's racism and what's not? Nah, because, you know, it's subjective for certain folks. And a lot of people will be like, that's racist. And some people will be like, nah. But I think, like you said, a lot of the microaggressions, right? There's a lot of people who disagree with microaggressions who believe they just don't exist.
I'm a huge perpetuant because I've dealt with a lot of them. Being a woman on your end, am I sticking out?
No,
or are
that's
you
me.
Scratching
That's me.
your hair?
Yeah, that's me.
Is this like bra gate?
No, that's me.
You see, I'm like checking my bra.
I appreciate
But I
that.
think as a black woman, that's what we see more than anything is microaggressions. You know, like there's just so many that I could point out, but I'm not going to. Like, it's just that's what we see more than kind of the brutality and things like that. Because I've never personally been stopped by a police officer, I don't think because of my race. Like, I've actually done something that's required that. But that doesn't mean that I don't still deal with racism on the other hand. You know, I deal with racism, ageism, all kinds of things on the other hand, especially in my professional life.
Is it racism if you don't catch it?
Yeah, it's still racism. Absolutely.
That was very loud.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. See, I never know when I'm too close. Absolutely. Yes, it's still racism, even if you don't catch it. And that's what causes it to continue, is if I don't catch it or I pretend like I don't hear it. Like, absolutely. All the time. You know, I was the only black girl in my, only black person in my cohort for grad school.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And there was tons of microaggressions that happen in just the group in itself. And I would get really upset about something. Like, they showed this Bill Cosby special before he became a whole rapist. And it was like from the 70s.
Okay.
And he was talking to a group of kids about how to deal with the police. And oh my God, all these white people in the class, you guys actually do that? That is insane. Why would you traumatize kids like that? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why are you traumatizing my kids? Like, my kids wouldn't have to know about this if you guys would stop doing the most or teach your kids. How about you do that and then you worry about mine later? Because my kids aren't out there arresting your kids because they're white. Like, your kids are out there doing it to mine. So I think that, you know, there's tons of other forms of racism, like you said, that come out, and there are microaggressions, 100%. I think the world is full of microaggressions.
Yeah, the world is definitely full of microaggressions, but the world also needs to be brutally honest about what they are doing and what they aren't doing. Racism is just something that people are so afraid of because they don't want to admit to themselves that they are. I don't even want to say that they are racist, but they may be behaving in some type of racist activity.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of the white patients, especially within the psych hospital, they have been taught certain racist microaggressions, and they are not aware that that is one, so they are just going to kind of live their life as such. They may be completely fine, they may be super dope and everything, they may be super ally-ish, you know, but they are taught certain behaviors that may be racist, and they're not aware of it. But I think it is hard. There just needs to be a whole ass like class of racism 101. But it goes back into what you said in terms of like a lot of the Germans, they have these conversations. A lot of Jewish families, they have conversations around like what it was like, right? A lot what our history was like. Black folks, we have these conversations with our children out of a necessity, out of safety, because like, yo, you can't die. I don't want you to die out here. These white folks is like, nah.
And I struggle a lot with like, and I hate to say this, but I struggle a lot with like white parents who have biracial children, because I feel like they leave a lot of that out too. You know, I had a friend say, well, I want my kid to understand that we don't see race here. We're biracial, we're mixed. And I'm like, please don't tell him that, because when he's riding in the car as a black boy that has my tint and he's in there with 4 guys and he gets pulled over, they're going to look at his race. And I don't want him walking around thinking, okay, well, there's no such thing as racism because I'm biracial, because we forget that these kids, especially biracial kids, they're just as subjected to that as we are. But I feel like usually when the family is interracial, as far as like a parent being white or black, specifically when moms are white, because, you know, usually black moms will give you the whole education no matter who.
We're gonna break this down. Look,
child. Look, sit down.
Look,
you still black. Obama mama probably gave him the whole vibe, you know what I mean? But I feel like when you have a white parent, they don't, again, they have not recognized their privilege. They have not, you know, they don't know a lot. So you can only give a kid what you know. And so if that kid is, say you have a single white mom and the kid is mixed, that kid is going to learn the white side of, you know, their family or whatever. So I feel like that's another thing that we're lacking, that I see a lot with just my kids in general who are biracial, is that they don't know a lot about the black struggle, even though they're going to most likely have to deal with the black struggle.
But even with biracial kids, a lot of them have trouble with, you know, their own personal identity. You know, I know a lot of biracial kids who are black, but they don't see themselves as black because they're not black enough.
Right.
They don't see themselves as, I don't know, Asian, because the Asians don't accept it because they're not Asians enough, so they have to put themselves in a box. I mean, in one specific area, which I'm just here. And I think a lot of the white parents, or a lot of the parents who have biracial children, they don't know what side to kind of follow or what side to go with, because, you know, it's like, oh, well, my dad is black and my mom is Asian, or my mom is white, or whatever the case is. And I think it's a part of like what you said is like, okay, what the fuck do you see? Does this person look black? Does this person have black physical features? Does this person have Asian features? Like what it is? Because at the end of the day, you're not walking around with a I am biracial tattoo on your forehead. You know, it's just I am black, and that's just what it is. So I think it's important to use racism as a means to like teach folks, educate above all means. There really needs to be like racism 101. You know, not specifically in terms of the history. Because the history is there, the history is always be there. I should not have to give you a history lesson about how white folks treat black people. But I should have to, not even say I should, but I would understand if you were to ask me, like, yo, are my microaggressions
like filler
kind of
questions.
Racist? Exactly. Because there's a lot of things that go on that white people don't know. White people, genuinely honest, like, yo, your hair, like, that shit look crazy, like.
And it looks cool. And I would never, you know, be mad at some, because I changed my hair. You've seen me, 3 different times, and my hair has been different every time. 4 different times, and my hair has been different. That's just what I do. But I'm not going to sit there and get mad and say, why do you keep asking me that? Because they genuinely don't understand. It doesn't make sense how somebody's hair can do so many things at one time.
Meanwhile, my hair just falls.
You know, that doesn't make sense. But I think if you're allowing it to continue, where you're telling your kids, like, we don't see color, you know, if you're leaving out stuff, that's what irks me about parents, especially white parents, is that you're leaving things out that your kids need to know for dealing with people later on in life. You know, we don't want to have to send one of our babies out to get one of your babies because you done said something crazy to them about, you know, black food or whatever. You know, you don't want that. So it's like, it's better to have the conversations with them early, and kids understand. To the very least, a kiddo can understand. Kiddo, that's what I call my kids. My kiddos can understand good and evil, or good and bad.
Yeah.
You know, they can understand that. So for one of the little girls, I was able to explain it. She's 3. Able to explain it as, you know, a police officer did something that was bad, and people were upset about it. So that's what you see, is they want him to, you know, get consequences for her behavior. And she's like, oh, that makes sense. You know, black, white, and color is still really hard for little ones. It's a really complex. They don't usually get that until maybe mid-elementary school, that, you know, we're different colors and we're different people, like, you know. So I think that just the very basis of like good and bad should be explained to them. Sesame Street, I don't know if you don't work with little ones, but
not too often. Not the toddlers. I can't do that. I ain't got the energy level for that.
Yeah.
That's you. I ain't got the. It's called Chill Will for a reason.
But Sesame Street did like an excellent job of explaining racism to kids that are under the age of 5. It was Elmo and his dad, and I'm guessing Elmo is white.
Elmo was a
I
blood.
always thought Elmo was black because his dad sounds like a whole black man, and he was voiced by a black man. But I guess Elmo's white, because he was asking something to the form of like, Dad, like, I don't understand what's happening. And he's like, you know, not everywhere is like Sesame Street or whatever. Like, there are people who are doing mean things to people because of how they look. And, you know, I'm like, that is how you explain that to a child, you know? People are doing mean things to people because of how they look. And then they had little Elmo be like, how can I help? And it was so cute.
That's cute.
I know. It's so adorable. I would let Mackenzie watch Little Elmo.
You're going to stop getting on Mackenzie.
I love my baby's name. I just can't wait till she's here and I can like love on her. So.
Disclaimer, we are not having a child together.
No, not us. No, not us. We are brother and sister, but he will have a baby named Mackenzie, and Mackenzie will be like the greatest.
I also don't have a child on the way either.
No, he does not. At least I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. But
I know I ain't got no kid on the way. But Tia, good looking.
You're welcome.
For coming through.
You.
So the last little question I got at the end that popped up in my head just now. So if you had to teach your little, I don't know what you would name your child.
Ava and Christian.
If you had to teach little Ava and Christian one thing about racism, what would it be?
That you're still great. Like, I know that that's so like minuscule, but I feel like as kids we grow up and we think that because racism exists we can't be great. And God made you unique because he made you unique. Like, black power. I love my black skin, and I want them to love their black skin because they're going to be black. So, you know, I came from 2 black parents. I show up as a black person every day. I want my kids to feel the same way. You're still great. Forget them.
Okay, I fucks with that.
That's what I'm going to tell Mackenzie, too.
Mackenzie gonna know it's popping.
TT thinks you are great.
Mackenzie gonna know she a beautiful young woman. And Junior, Willis Cooks Jr.
Oh my God, we're calling him Junior. I was gonna say WJ, but that's off. So
young Will gonna know he popping. Like, for real. But if it came down to one thing that, I mean, outside of like you great and you dope, I also want you to understand that, you know, racism is not here because of you. Racism is here because of the fear of someone else.
Yes.
That's it. You know, you're not the cause of racism. You're not the one responsible to fix it. It's not your issue. You are meant here to make sure you protect yourself and you live the dope ass life that you are meant to be because your name is Willis, or because your name is, just because you're my kid. Like, you gonna be dope. But like,
and TT will pull up.
She gonna pull up with
I will pull up with the squad.
Nah, with gifts and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
we just
100%.
not accepting no free. Like, hey, what you doing? Time and something valuable.
That's okay. I got them.
As always, Tia, good looking, young guru.
Thank you. Good.
Appreciate
Older
you for
guru.
coming. To all those folks that are listening and tuning in, good looking, good looking, good looking, good looking. Always remember, never forget. Ain't no wealth without your mental health. Please stay blessed. Take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.